Hello and welcome to the Sun Sport Chelsea YouTube channel from here in Naples, where Chelsea, in dramatic fashion as always, secured their place in the last 16 of the Champions League thanks to a fantastic brace from Joao Pedro, really digging Liam Rosenior's team out of trouble. They've been given a very, very fortuitous lead by Enzo Fernandez, a controversial, probably rather harsh penalty against Napoli that Enzo Fernandez converted. But then with Napoli needing to win, the Diego Maradona lifted really the atmosphere that it's famous for, turned up, the ultras started getting them going, and they shocked Chelsea in the first half. Really, their defending was all over the place. We'll get into why in a second, but a big gamble from Rosenior was really backfiring when Vergara scored a fantastic solo goal, his first for the club, going through Caicedo, Fofana, and then Rasmus Højlund, the Danish striker who's reviving his career after leaving Manchester United, came on ahead of Fofana at the near post and made it 2-1. Rosenior made some changes, brought Palmer on at half-time, we'll get into that as well, and Chelsea turn it around, finish in that top 8 and avoid those 2 games that, with an already punishing schedule, would have made things even more difficult if they'd ended up in a playoff that could have been against someone tricky like Bodo Glimt. We've seen what they did against Manchester City this season, but no need to worry about that for Chelsea now. They're straight through into the last 16, so they will have to wait and see who they face. They'll watch the playoff draw on Friday with interest and then see who they face in March. But a couple of midweeks off, which will be very, very important, not just for the fitness, but for a new manager who's got a packed schedule that he needs to find some time on the training ground with his players. And I think one thing that he knows that at the moment they're certainly not capable of implementing is what he described as a very complicated system. It looked a mad one when we saw the team, and it looked a mad one as the first half was unplaying. Wesley Fofana named as the only recognised central defender in a sort of hybrid back 3, back 4, back 5 system in the first half that was really exposed by Napoli after they fell behind. Fofana, for the first goal, just turned far too easily trying to defend the box almost on his own. Caicedo was off it in that first half as well, weak in terms of letting Oliveira get ahead of him and play the ball to Vergara, sprawling behind him with a challenge, which is quite unlike Caicedo this season especially. He's had his moments, he's obviously had a bit of a discipline issue, but he's put in some fantastic performances as well, and fans aren't used to seeing that sort of thing. And the way Vergara rolled Wesley Fofana was far too soft from a Chelsea perspective. A fantastic individual goal, a brilliant moment for him, someone that's come through the academy in Napoli and is a local player, but Rosenior would have been furious with that. And also the second goal that put Napoli ahead before the break, equally weak from Fofana at the near post, allowing Højlund to get across him. So that was a huge problem for Chelsea in the first half, and one that at half time it didn't look like Rosenior was going to address. He didn't send on another defender until just before the hour mark. Cole Palmer was the only change at the break, but what an impact he made. There was a lot of concern as to whether he'd be in the squad. He did travel. Rosenior said afterwards there was no way he could have played 60 or 70 minutes, as he still tries to manage his fitness. But now, after seeing what he did last night, everybody will be sat with his fingers crossed that these injury problems he's suffered across the first half of the season will be behind him, because Pedro will take the plaudits in terms of the 2 goals, and they were fantastic. Palmer got the assist for both of them to call the first one or credit the first goal with a big assist might be a bit generous, but it was Palmer's intelligence and intention and pace to get the ball forwards to Pedro that allowed that to happen. And he just gave Chelsea a lift really and made them much more dangerous. They'd really lacked any sort of threat in the first half, barely created anything from open play. Palmer gave that presence going forwards, especially after Rosenior did realise his mistake and shift to a back 4 with Trevor Chalobah coming on to give them that comfortable look again. I think they're talking about still learning under Rosenior, but this was a big thing to try out in a Champions League game. Palmer as well for the second goal looked in trouble in his own half. A couple of players around him managed to squeeze it out to Enzo Fernandez, play a fantastic 1-2 with Joao Pedro, who pulled off a fantastic finish, showing he can do the spectacular with his first one on his left foot, and then a much more composed, calm finish with his right to win the game for Chelsea before being showered with bottles and I'd imagine coins and lighters by the Napoli fans as he celebrated. Kept his good form up as well. That's 4 goals in 4 games under Liam Rosenior for Pedro now, who, when we spoke to him fairly recently, admitted himself that his form, or his first season at Chelsea since that 60 million move from Brighton, has been okay, but not fantastic. Something he really wants to address. If he can keep this goal scoring form up under Rosenior, then it will certainly be trending in the right direction and look a lot more like the start of his Chelsea career when he was shining in the Club World Cup than what we've seen since in the Premier League. But back to Palmer as well, it just feels like a significant moment. There's been so much talk about whether he's happy at Chelsea, whether he wants to go back to Manchester, could he sign for Manchester United. Rosenior says he's untouchable, and you can see why with moments like that, and I think you can see why it would be such a hard thing for Chelsea to do, albeit he's not somebody that's come through the academy. He is the poster boy of this Chelsea project. We've seen Raheem Sterling go. He was supposed to be the marquee signing, the man that said, we're serious about this. That's not worked out. He's now gone this week, and Palmer has shown why he's someone that the fans won't stomach losing, the manager will really not want to lose, and why they need to do everything to ensure that he is fulfilled and happy at Chelsea, because there are so few players that you can bring on. The strength of the squad they've got means they don't have to risk him from the off when he's not quite there. Antonio Conte, the former Chelsea manager, last night was talking about the real depth they've got as a squad, the quality that Chelsea have got as a squad to bring on players like Palmer. Then they threw Garnacho at it, they threw Gittins at it to see what would work. There's some real depth of talent there, but there are so few players that can come on in a huge game like this, pressure in a stadium like Napoli's, look comfortable, look like they're ready to take the game and do things for their club. Palmer's done it before. He obviously came off the bench for England in a European final and scored a goal for Gareth Southgate's team in Germany nearly a couple of years ago. There are precious few players like that in football at the moment, and Chelsea would need to do all they can to keep hold of him. So it's a big night for him, a good night for Pedro, a good night for Chelsea, and another huge statement the first huge statement really for Liam Rosenior as he tries to win over a fan base that are unsure about their new manager, want to find a reason to back him, you would imagine, and Chelsea gave them plenty last night. Taking down Chelsea's last title-winning manager is a huge moment for Rosenior, something that will give him confidence. They've had good results already. He started well. He's only lost one game so far, the Arsenal game in the Carabao Cup, but the fixture list have been fairly kind to this point. Charlton, Brentford, who are poor away from home in the Premier League, Crystal Palace, who are struggling, Paphos, the tiny Cypriot side, although they made hard work of that. This was the first proper statement, something for Chelsea fans to remember and sing about, and Rosenior now can look forward to the last 16 and hope for some more big European nights like this one.